this micro and small, bear the largest brand of climate change effects. So, by definition, basically we are looking at the social sustainability of MSMEs as the ability of MSMEs or the ecosystems to organize themselves and to function in a manner that promotes long-term social well-being, equity, inclusion, and environmental sanity. At the end of the day, you can have good plans and programs, but until the people you are implementing those programs for own those programs and implement them from their own spaces and understanding levels, they may not have much impact. From my own understanding, development does not have to come at the expense of anyone or an environment. But unfortunately, as human beings, we are having these conversations because we've become this type of human beings where we have to sacrifice one thing for us to get the other. And personally, I believe we need to find a balance that ensures that even as we aspire for development, as we aspire for business sustainability and profit, we must find a way of finding a balance. So social sustainability basically focuses on creating equitable, inclusive, safe workspaces where employees' rights are protected. So the cornerstone of this laws and protection of workers' rights. Because my presentation was focusing on labor laws and workers' rights in the concept of sustainability. Because to sustain an institution, to sustain an MSME or an enterprise, there must be a standard set of regulations, laws, and procedures that we must all follow for us to be able to deliver on our promises. So it addresses issues like human rights, like I've mentioned, fair labor practices, equitable access to resources, social justice, community engagement, environmental consciousness. And the objective of this is to create systems that are resilient and adaptable. Because today in the world of climate change, we are talking about mitigation and adaptation. So these MSMEs, for them to be self-sustainable, we must have mechanisms that guarantee justice and resilience. Profitability and growth of business does not have to come at the suffering of your employees or the environment. At the end of the day, the owners on a day-to-day basis, there will be an owner with a few, 1 or 2, 3, like for the micro, you'll realize it's 1 up to 9 people. So the owner must be there. These enterprises derive their sustainability from communal goodwill of the local communities in which they operate in terms of raw materials and markets. I know most of you are business people. Without the goodwill of that neighborhood, I don't think it's possible for your small shop to exist. Because those are the people that will be coming to buy, and if you are doing minor production or value addition, you will definitely derive your raw materials from that very locality. If you're making, let's say, juice from mangoes or bananas, as a micro or a small enterprise, it will be more cost effective for you to acquire your raw materials from your neighborhood. For you to achieve that, there must be that goodwill. And that goodwill is derived from your sustainability and social mechanisms in your coexistence with your community. So these enterprises, especially the agricultural ones, are rural-based with the limited access to clean energy, internet, technology for mechanization, business infrastructure due to limited resources. And they largely depend on manpower. And that's where the issue of the labor laws and human rights come in. So there are key aspects of social sustainability of MSMEs. So the first one is environmental health, where it's important to adopt green transition practices like circular economy, green jobs, green energy, and green financing. We talk about labor rights and well-being of workers, where it's very critical that as an employer, as an MSME, You must create an environment of fair wage payment, livable working conditions that also provides benefits, social benefits, like healthcare, education, housing, retirement, with zero discrimination based on whether age, gender, religion, or any other aspect. So another aspect is community impact. Sustainability is derived from the impact that you create. That impact is what builds the goodwill, that then from which you derive your continuity. So it's very important for MSMEs to ensure that even as they do business, the social aspect of their enterprise must be emphasized. So there is social cohesion by building strong, resilient, supportive, participatory, and interconnected business communities among themselves. For example, if you're selling milk, there is someone else who is selling sugar. It's very important to create a complementary relationship, because you might be selling milk and you want to make the profits, but not everyone in the neighborhood suffers from diabetes and doesn't need sugar. They will have to buy sugar. So it's important, even when you are in different fields, for you to appreciate other industries and make collective efforts towards environmental protection and conservation and community development. Because sometimes when it comes to matters of the environment favors nobody. The environment is not jealous of anyone. The consequence of one's mistake affects everyone. When those floods come today in this hall, it does not matter who has been conserving the environment. All of us will be swept away. So as the effects are collective, so should our efforts in whatever we do, especially as business people. So by integrating these principles, we can strengthen the workforce, improve productivity, and enhance reputations. When you guarantee people their rights at a workspace, when you protect their rights and you live by the labor laws, you realize most of those people become more productive because they are more motivated. So these labor rights, labor law is important as MSMEs on your growth path to embrace these practices. You will find me quoting a lot of India and Kenya. I'm from Kenya, so India is my other mother. I was lucky to have been introduced by Sarah Doria. They invited me last year, and I got a lot of experiences, and I'm very sure going forward we'll be interacting to share experiences. So MSMEs are pivotal in the economic growth, creation of employment, and ensuring social sustainability. In my country, we have a workforce of around 20 million. I'm sure that's a drop in the ocean compared to India. But out of the 20 million, only 1 million are employed by the government. I'm one of those 1 million. 2 million are employed in these big companies, the blue chip ones. 17 million are in the MSME sector. That's why even our government has come up with an agenda called the Bottom-Up Economic Transformation Agenda, where there's a lot of focus and investment in micro, small, and medium enterprises as a key pillar. That's where we are investing in a lot of aggregation, and I've been having conversations with a few of you who are interested. I welcome you. There's a lot of emphasis, especially in manufacturing. We are putting up counting in aggregated and industrial parks that are supposed to be used to basically for manufacturing, not just for export, but also for local consumption and sustainability. So we look at the need for social sustainability in the context of labor laws and workers' rights. Sustainability preaches and practices. In a fair working environment, the employee turnover is low. So that's a very key. And you know, sometimes it's not just about what people are paid. Sometimes the environment So it's important that through social sustainability we're able to enforce fair employment practices. So there are labor laws that accompany that. In Kenya we have the Employment Act of 2007 that sets a legal framework for employment contracts, wages and other conditions. In India, it's these laws related to. So all these laws are very critical in the entrenchment of social sustainability. So we have a safe and healthy working environment. So it's important to ensure the protection of workers from accidents and occupational hazards. Let me use an example of a recycling center where we have all this manner of waste coming there. As the owner of the business, as an MSME, it's important for you to provide protective and safety gear for your employees in order to enhance sustainability. So we also have laws that guide that. The Occupational Safety and Healthy Act of 2007 in Kenya. We also have in India, we have the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code. So all these emphasize on the need for workplace safety, sanitation and welfare facilities. Respect for workers' rights is also another need. That's the reason why we are motivated towards social sustainability, because businesses that respect workers' rights, including the right to unionize, collective bargaining, and protection from discrimination and job security. That job security is what creates sustainability. That sustainability is what enhances the reputation of the business. That reputation of the business is what grows its value in terms of the market of its products. Remember, I have already mentioned that most of these micro, small and medium enterprises survive largely on the goodwill of their communities. So it's important for us to do that. So the same I've mentioned the Labor Relations Act in Kenya and the Trade Unions Act, as well as the Industrial Relations Code of 2020. Wage equity and social protection such that people are qualified based on their abilities. So it's very important for us to be very keen on that. Inclusive and equal opportunity workspaces with the zero discrimination based on gender, ethnicity, or any other non-professional ideas. So we need to protect vulnerable workers. So that is part of the advocacies of social sustainability, where women, children, and people living with disabilities are protected against any discrimination. Corporate social responsibility is also a concept of social sustainability, where as MSMEs you have an obligation to the community in which you operate, because that community is the source of your raw materials, that community is the source of your market. So it's in your own best interest for that community to be in best health, to be safe, and to be supportive of your enterprises, so that even as they bring you their money, they feel that their money is coming back to them in a different way. So it's important. That's why we need to entrench social sustainability. So we need, part of it is also adaptation to global best practices as provided by the ILO, and I'm sure in both India and Kenya are signatories to the ILO statutes. That's why it's important for workers' rights and labor laws to be followed. Alignment with SDGs, I'm sure these ones has been mentioned. Poverty alleviation, reduction of inequality, education, health. These are all listed in the SDGs that have already been spoken to and about. Social financing and business support interventions. So you realize that we need effective that are functional and effectual that are impactful. Because you might have a program that is functional but is not impactful. So it's important that we invest in programs that are both functional and impactful. In Kenya, we have a social intervention fund called the Hustler Fund. We have this Hustler Fund is just an online non-collateralized source of funding for MSMEs. We have common user spaces that are created through the constituency industrial development centers. and county aggregation industrial parks, where MSMEs come together to enjoy common user facilities, and these centers also serve as aggregation centers to markets. So that is part of social sustainability. Those are mechanisms for entrenching social sustainability for MSMEs. So we also need to create a conducive and enabling business regulations that guarantee ease of starting and doing business, fair returns on investment, because we all know the first employee in any business is the owner of the business. And some businesses only have that one person as the owner, the employee, and everything. So in such a case, the rights of that person must also be respected. That person has a right to earn from the investment. They have a right to clean environment. So that is part of social sustainability as we have this conversation. So, but the most important part of it is a sustainable and livable environment. At the end of the day, the environment is the only non-negotiable in the development equation. You can make all the money, you can do everything, but with a degraded environment, all that money will never help you or anything. In the end, it becomes vanity. So there are challenges that face social sustainability with respect to compliance with labor laws and upholding of workers' rights. We have resource constraints. All of us know that the biggest challenge for MSMEs is the access to resources, both financial and even infrastructural. So it becomes sometimes a challenge, even complying with safety and health regulations due to this. So we have lack of awareness, where some people don't know that some laws exist. So there are people who break the law, both government and non-governmental institutions, and facilitate that transfer of information. Conflict of interest in enforcement, you realize maybe this is a government official, he has some interest in this company, and this company is breaking some laws in regard to safety, environment. There are people who are disposing waste into the river directly, but because that person has an interest and is conflicted, they look the other way as our environment is degraded. So that's one of the greatest challenges. To enhance that, we need capacity building. We need government incentives that catalyze compliance, like tax grants. Sometimes when they're given some tax breaks, last year I learned that you have the registration. I also learned that MSMEs, they're given tax breaks, at the point of registration, you're given like a 1-year tax holiday. So some of those things help the businesses at the point of starting to sustain. Because in my country, most of them fall off. 90% of the businesses don't see their third anniversary. 60% second, 40% their first anniversary. So it's important for some of these interventions so that they are given that head start to be able to sustain. So partnerships and collaborations with government agencies, trade unions, and governmental organizations, as well as industry leaders, can also be very helpful in ensuring that. At the end of the day, it's just critical for the long-term success of MSMEs. Social sustainability is very important. These laws must be adhered to for us to create that sustainability. The challenges exist in enforcement and frameworks, but at the end of the day, we have to still find ways of getting forward. Compliance and prioritization of fair treatment of workers is also very important. So after we have said all this, MSMEs that prioritize social sustainability and comply with the labor laws and the upholding of workers' rights are better positioned for long-term success and social impact. Those who operate in a safe environment have a higher chance of living a healthier life as opposed to those who don't. So basically, in the context of what we are discussing, from where I stand, social sustainability is more about common sense than the law. It's just about you, the two of you sitting together. It's important for this space to be clean. There's no reason for you dropping banana chips or that there because you will pick it. So that, for me, it's just a commonsensical issue. Where you have employees, it's just important for you to create an environment where they are safe. And that's why I talked about social sustainability is about non-zero summism. In operations research, they talk about zero-sum games, where one must lose for the other to gain. In my opinion, we can all win. The environment, we can preserve the environment, we can pay our employees well, and we can still make profits. It's just about us finding the right balance and understanding that life is about complementarism. At the workplace, we have an accountant, we have an operations manager, we have a marketer. An accountant, as special as you think you are, if there are any accountants, you will have nothing to account for if a marketer does not go out there and look for business. Or am I lying? As a marketer, you'll have nothing to market if the factory manager does not produce there. So it's important for us to embrace complementarism. And in that chain of complementarism, there is the environment that we must preserve for us to be able to have spaces where we can complement each other. So, as I was closing, I had questions. Can we avoid waste? No. Is that waste affecting our environment? Yes. Is there a need for us to protect our environment from harmful waste? Yes. Can we make money out of environmental conservation and waste management? Yes. How do we end the madness of waste? Turn waste into raw materials and attach value to it. Anything that has monetary value becomes very scarce with time. So we need to find a way of attaching monetary value to waste so that its demand now rises. When its demand rises, then it means we will be competing for it. And when we start competing for things, we have to find creative ways of ensuring that it does not just float all over. So we need to find a way to do that. And that is me. And you're all welcome. Thank you very much.